Hi, everyone. I'm Lovia, Gyarkye, and thank you for joining us for the Hollywood Reporter Presents Q&A with the cast and crew of Bridgerton. I'm so excited to be here with you all today. And so I think I'm just going to get started and ask, did you expect the show to blow up in the way that it did? I would love to hear how your respective lives have changed since like this massive hit. Can we start with Phoebe and then Julianne, and then we'll go around in a circle.
I think when I got getting the first audition through and knowing it was Netflix and Shondaland's first project together, it's going to be something special and people are going to watch it. And I think we knew those things as soon as I started working, and also finding out how popular the books are as well, which is another thing. But as soon as I started working, I just had to push that all away because it just made me, distracted me a little bit and it was too much noise. But I think the reaction to the show was just unlike anything any of us imagined. I mean, I don't want to speak for everyone, but it was wild. And I think I've only just come down from the craziness of the last few months. It's been I think a lot for all of us because we were also in the midst of a second wave and a pandemic, and just the roller coaster of what has been the last year or so anyway was kind of added to by the huge success of the show. But I think we're all really, sorry, I keep speaking on behalf of everyone. I feel really proud and happy that we were able to make something that gave people a lot of joy in a difficult time. And I think that is what's so brilliant about the show, is that it is so joyful. And so yeah, I'm thrilled that so many people have loved watching it and continue to watch it.
Yeah. Julianne, I'm just curious about how this show has changed your life.
I have a slightly different perspective because I was around when Grey's Anatomy really exploded. So I can remember, I have a memory of that happening. And it was like this enormous just wave hitting everybody, all the actors, everybody involved. And so I had an inkling that might happen again. Of course, you never really think it's going to, because that only happens once, right? So it's interesting, just to echo what Phoebe said, I've been in my house. This is my house. I've been in my house and not leaving very much. And I don't tend to read reviews or press or anything. For very good reasons. So I didn't really know what was happening. And then I started getting, texts and emails from people. And my mom's best friend, who is a nun, was like, I love this show. So that's when I started really realizing she even loved episode 6. So.
I bet she did. Sorry, I had to say.
Oh my gosh, that's, first of all, intense. Not what I thought I was going to hear, but
we got the thumbs up from everyone's favorite. It's like
it's everyone's favorite. Nicola, I saw you like nodding aggressively when Phoebe was talking about her life changing, and so I'm curious if you have anything to add.
It was funny. I remembered Phoebe and I meeting up, and I feel like it must have been early December of 2020. We went for a drink in Soho House.
No, that must have been. No, that was summer.
Was it? I mean, my mind, like, I don't know. I'm really just on the shoot for Vogue, and I was like, "That's so exciting that you're." Anyway, we were talking about it coming out, and we were very much in the same position when we were like, "I can't think about anything else." Then it comes because you're locked in your house, so there's not much else to think about. I had an experience. I'm on another show called Dairy Girls, which became like an unexpected hit in the same way. So I had that happen before, and I did have the sneaking suspicion about this, that it would be that again. And I don't know whether everyone else found it really annoying, but I kind of remember saying to like Luke Thompson, like, this is going to change your life. And I was like, sometimes you could be wrong, you could be totally wrong, but my instinct said, and I remember saying it to Phoebe, that when we sat down for that drink, I was like, I feel like this is going to be really big. Like,
I was in denial, by the way.
Yeah, you were totally in denial. Yeah, you were like, I don't know.
It's not.
You know,
no,
like I've done
it's
other
great,
stuff and
but
it hasn't. But I was like, for some reason. And Claudia said it to me when we were at a dinner. We were just about to wrap season 1, and Claudia said, I feel like this is going to be like Game of Thrones, but like a period drama. I just feel that. I think Claudia and I very much all along felt like, oh, I think this might be a big thing, you know. But yeah, again, you don't know. You think that, but you could be totally wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually broke my own order there, but I'm really curious, Adjoa or Claudia or Kelly, if you guys have anything else to add about the success of the show and how it may have unexpectedly or expectedly changed your life.
I think for me, I think it changes. It's changed lots of things. I think it's a game changer in terms of historical drama. I do think that. I don't think anybody's going to flinch about not being documentary perfect with drama. I think it's raised all sorts of questions about how historically accurate previous historical dramas have been in terms of their, you know, their multiracial depictions, the conversations around sexuality and feminist politics and all those sorts of things. I think there's a more of a feeling of you can breathe out and you can bend the form to your will in a way that that just the popularity of the show, it's sort of like we've got a global thumbs up that you're allowed to do that stuff. And
yes.
And I think that's been really delightful. And I think the most moving thing for me has just been the fact that, you know, as Nick was saying, we've all been sort of stuck in our front rooms. You know, you do these hilarious things where you actually, beyond the laptop, what you see is a pile of washing. You know? Sort of like, it's fabulous. It's that sort of thing that's been going on. But given that that's been everybody's reality, to be able to be in a show that is that you can say to everybody watching, you're included and we see you in this show, so that everybody who's stuck indoors, everybody can watch the show and feel like they've thought about. I think I found that at a time when we're all so isolated, I think I found that really lovely.
Yeah, I think that's a really wonderful sentiment. It actually leads me to another question that I had, particularly for you, Julianne and Kelly, about what you were thinking, you know, when you got onto the show, particularly in terms of casting and really just addressing this, you know, very clearly like multiracial element that isn't seen in Regency era shows or period dramas and isn't even in the original book, I think, right? So like, if you guys can talk about that, I'd be really curious.
I think from my perspective, there was a clear strategy from the beginning, wasn't there, Kelly, in terms of the role that diversity was going to play in the piece, and we were just getting the best people we could, weren't we?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is like a show comes along once in a while, and it kind of ties into your original question. Like, so I did a show called Broadchurch. Was the last time that it was like the type of like water cooler show that I worked on, where everybody's talking about it, and wherever you go. And this was the only one since then that's happened, which is great. But you felt on this show specifically that there was a space to breathe, and that myself and my amazing team got to. All the hours that we have sat in the dark watching plays for the last 15 years, you know, the reason we do what we do as casting directors, something like Bridgerton's come along, and it feels like it was sort of a gift to us to be able to use our knowledge and go, hey, what about, and not feel shut down by, dare I say, a group of white guys in a room. So we had this amazing, it felt like we were sending these ideas out into the darkness. And it was coming back with absolutely everything that we wanted and everything that it should be. And people have been asking us a lot, it's like, how did you feel knowing that you could, you know, have diverse actors? I'm like, I hate the question now. It's almost, it's like, it's not something that we as casting directors all of a sudden went, oh, guess what? We felt more like we were allowed to just put the right actors in front of everybody. And it just so happened that everybody was on the same page. So when the shortlist kept on coming back from these guys, and we would be like, oh, they've gone for, well, these guys. And you think, yes, this is everything this makes me love my job. You know, so it was a pleasure from start to finish.
And Kelly is an amazingly specific casting director. So it's not like you would suggest waves of people. That you're always very specific about the people that you put forward, which is a testament to you in terms of how you shape something like this.
Well, it's well, here's the thing, we see a lot of people. So my amazing team, so Cole Edwards, who works with me on the show, and Lily Hanbury, like, work their socks off. And that's another great thing about Bridgerton, is that everyone talks about inclusivity, and what we get to do on this show is all these 1-line, 2-line parts from mamas and, you know, suitors. We see everybody and anybody, honestly. And so then when I select, because we get such a clear steer for the show, it's actually quite easy. And it's about having the confidence to be able to say, these are the 5 people I really like out of 40. And know that the people that you're sending that to are gonna embrace that and not come back and be like, I think they're a bit old to be married to a 25-year-old. You know what I mean? It's like you don't get the stupid questions coming back that we normally do. So it was just a pleasure.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love what the two of you said about sort of the show being more of a freedom, right? And so I'm curious, from the cast perspective, like how you all embodied freedom, and particularly this independence that isn't normal, quote unquote, for that time period within your characters. And so, like, how did you embody, or how did you flex, like how did you tease out the independence in your particular roles? I'm thinking specifically, obviously, about like Eloise. And so I just would love to hear from you, Claudia, to start, and then maybe Nicola, Phoebe, and then Adjoa, in that order, if that's okay.
I'm sort of really blessed with it, because with Eloise, it's very much on the page. There's you don't really need to search for, like, what does she really mean? Like, what does she really mean, though? I wish she'd get off the fence, tell us how she really feels. Like, she's one of the only characters that doesn't internalize much. You can see that a lot of the characters are struggling to express themselves, struggling to express what they really want and their ideas for the future and stuff like that. And so it, you know, Eloise, I always say that she's sort of she's just the one holding the megaphone, because she externalizes it, quite rightly too. You know, she's just doing what she's should be allowed to do, which is exploring the idea of her autonomy and what she wants to do with her life. And so for me, it was very much there. But I guess what was fun for me is that the freedom I had to do that and use things like, you know, if I use comedy, which is like very much the center of my heart. Like I've got an insatiable desire to make people laugh. So someone like Eloise is the greatest gift for me. And also, I think, I always say with Eloise, I guess she's always described as more of the explicit, quote unquote, feminist narrative throughout, but you will see through all of the characters that it's artfully peppered throughout, that you can see how everybody's struggling with the rules and regulations of the patriarchy. Again, Eloise is just, she's got the freedom of just sort of, being able to express it with no real, it's not very cryptic. It's not cryptic.
Yeah.
I mean, conversely, all I had was like a cryptic and hidden, which as an actor is really, it's so interesting, because I've never played a character like that, on which she's not showing anything, she's not telling anything, even I think she's not admitting a lot of things to herself. But in terms of like making it feel a certain way, I think that was all within the script. It was a very refreshing audition script to get, because it didn't read like a period drama in some ways. Not all period dramas are like this, of course, but a lot of the times it can feel so staid. And I think, especially if you're adapting a classic like Pride and Prejudice, for example, it feels like there's this really strict set of rules that they have to be exactly like this. And you're so stuck in the supposed accuracy of the era that I think it can hamper things. But with Bridgerton, it felt like there was a freedom that we could go, oh, we're doing this. This is its own thing, in which they're allowed to have these complex conversations and feelings, and they can be messy and unlikable and all of these things. And that's why I think I love the most about the show is, like, I'm going to say, especially the women, just for me personally, I love that we have such a range of amazing women in this show that, yeah, aren't just one thing, or so many different things.
For me, Daphne was interesting because she's so a product of her own time. So it was just finding the ways to make her relatable. That was like my biggest, through prep, my biggest thing of like, how do women, girls, boys, how do people relate to this girl that, you know, is so privileged and in so many ways, but also as Claudia said, like, she's so trapped in this patriarchy that she isn't really necessarily aware of until the end of the story. So when we meet her, she's just this sort of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Disney princess in a way. So for me, it was just finding the ways in which people could relate to her, which was whether it was through anxiety, which I think I tried to pepper in there, of like the pressure of trying to be this thing. Like, literally, she is just an object of desire, and that's her future. Like, if someone likes the look of, like, it's that was just how things were then. So it was just finding the pressure, the little ways in which she dealt with that, internalized that, and the ways in which she expressed herself, and the humor and the empathy, and just finding these little moments that made her real and authentic. That was my challenge, I think. Yeah.
Daphne Bridgerton, I think, jumping in there, is one of the hardest characters I have ever had to cast, because you had to be perfect and likable and everything else. And that is it. Gosh, when I saw you, when you were there at the drinks, the welcome drinks, you remember, I just was like, you're here. I was holding you, like, you're not going anywhere. No, it was she is the hardest, easily one of the hardest people we've ever had to cast. For all of the things that you just said.
So brilliant. Like, it's such a tough, I don't think people realize how tough that role is. You can so easily imagine someone playing that you'd go, oh Jesus, Daphne, but you made her so vulnerable. No, because she's beautiful and perfect, and she's sort of doing all the right stuff, but Phoebe gave her this amazing vulnerability and a warmth, and you could really go along with her, and that's just a testament to your talent, really.
Oh, thank you.
That's true.
Thanks.
I think what's been lovely about all of these parts, and absolutely what Phoebe's embodied with Daphne, is that they pay some digging into. If you dig into them, there are layers and there are nuances, and there's a richness that you can excavate, which is in the writing, but there's space for you to dive into it. And as an actor, it makes it really interesting to do that work. It sort of keeps your interest bubbling the whole time. What are all the different levels you're playing at any given moment. It's always a challenge, and it's always the stuff that when you hit the sweet spot, it feels fantastic. I always say about Lady Danbury, she's like a shouty, shy person. It's like, look over here, look at this, don't look at that, look at this is what I want you to see, this bit, not this bit. So I think there's a lot of that going on, about just that thing where you've had to watch what the world is and how you can fit yourself into its nooks and crannies and keep safe and get what you want, and only reveal what you need to about who you really are, as a strategy for survival and thriving, I think. And so I think so that gives you scope to be very sort of front foot and here I am, but it's also, what's ticking underneath, what's the tick. So that's I find that constantly interesting, and I as Nick says, I think the women are really, I'm not saying the men aren't, but we're women. Let's just have the lady conversation. But I just think these women, because we're in an era where women have no official agency. So it's really interesting to just see how do they survive and thrive as unique individuals with their own appetites and their own curiosities and their own taste for the world. I think that's part of their appeal in the way. They're a great encouragement for somebody watching, I think. And there's great delight to be had, and there's great texture and nuance to them. So, you know, as artists, we can have fun with that creation, but I think we can also communicate something which is sort of hopeful and come on, find your way, what's your thing, hold your thing, find your way to your thing. That's really great. And be in a corset and really uncomfortable shoes and an itchy wall.
It's so funny, Adjoa. I think what you said about how these women survive in this period, so much of that, at least as a fan of the show, for me was watching friendships, you know, evolve and take root and kind of be explored. And that was a really amazing, I think, part of the show, that it wasn't necessarily just this, you know, yes, it's taking place during a season of courtship, but so much of the show is about friendship. And so I would love, you know, to hear from you, Nicola and Claudia, about, you know, your on-screen friendship and then also, you know, just generally how friendship was built amongst the cast. Like, because it seems like from watching the show that you guys all like each other.
It's all an act. No, I'm just kidding. It was an amazing thing. It's always such a wonderful thing when you get something that not only like passes the Bechdel test, but then goes beyond that and makes them interesting and have depth. And I think Claudia and I, we talk about their friendship all the time, actually. It's a constant thing, but I think what we sort of figured out about it is that the root of it is just real true love. They really love each other, and there's such a wonderful counterbalance to one another, where Eloise is the extrovert and Penelope's such the introvert, but they balance each other out, and they just, you know, they can have complex conversations. I feel like they're the most themselves with one another. Yes, they have lots of other parts of their personalities, but I feel like that's really them when they're at their the most themselves.
And we were saying before that, like, it's such a pure thing to see, and when you watch this series, you're obviously shown all of these like really dynamic relationships and all of this tension, and they're like, oh gosh, like I want this to happen. And then you see them just being like with each other, and it's such a lovely thing to see. And I think that would have been another reason why people became so sort of loving towards that friendship.
And they're the outsiders too. I think we can all relate to, you know, not fitting in and being the girl watching the guy that you like dance with another girl and not feeling adequate and wanting to better yourself but not being able. All of those things, I think, too. And it's a gift when you have that in a script. You know, you're very lucky when you have all that to play with.
I think from our side of it, something that Chris and I and Chandra and Betsy always talked about was, yes, it's going to be set in this glamorous world and it's going to be colorful, it's going to be expensive, but the thing that we must never lose sight of are the beating hearts inside the costumes and those relationships and the emotional network that's so finely woven throughout the series. That was always a guiding principle from the very beginning.
Yeah, I'd be curious if you could talk a little bit more about how you facilitated that, you know, like were there moments where you're like, okay, I want to keep this in this scene, I want to like bring this out? Are there particular scenes where that happened and you're like, no, that was a success, but it was really difficult?
I think it's something more, and I have to talk about Chris here as well. You know, it was very much even in pre-production, we could have gone a number of different directions with the look of the piece and with the costumes, but we always were aware we wanted it to be a harmonious backdrop to, again, as I was saying before, to these wonderful, amazing actors and the stories that they were telling. And so we were very, very aware of that all the way along. And I would say that in every single scene. I would say that in every single scene, the emotional journey of the characters was the story that we were telling. And sometimes it's hard to, you got to really keep track of that. But that was always my guiding principle.
Yeah. I would love to ask, and I want all of you to answer this, what you hope people who have watched the show, have yet to watch the show, although literally I don't know anyone that's true, what you hope they take away from the show, like really from your, like on a personal level, like what you feel like the show or your character or certain scenes are trying to communicate. Why don't we start with you, Julianne?
I think emotion. I hope that people feel emotionally connected, and I know that's a basic thing to say, but it's really important, and I feel like that reaches across through the screen. These emotions that each of these characters are. And the journeys that they're going through. That's a simple thing to say, but it is what I hope. And also I love the fact that people are seeing themselves. People are seeing representations of themselves, and they're like, I'm on Lady Danbury's team. I'm on the Duke's team. I'm on Daphne's team. That they're seeing representations of themselves on screen, and that is something that I think people take away.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of in that same ballpark with Julianne. I just think that, it may be 1813, but it's also 2021. Different frocks, same stuff. I really do think that. I think it's not like people were living and thinking in a different way in ye olden times. I think it's, we are human beings, and we keep going through the same stuff with different furniture and gear. So if people can find something in our stories that helps them explain something that's going on in their life, or gives them a little path through something, while also going, look at that stately pile, I like that bit of fabric, then I'm really glad that you can have your cake and eat it a bit. And I think that's what's been joyous about the show for me.
Yeah, well, I just want to back up what Julianne and Adjoa said. I know, and just give a really simple answer, which is that it's a really beautiful, fun escape, and I hope it allows people to, I don't know, enjoy the romance and friendship and the joyfulness of the show, and certainly, hopefully, by the end of the show, or whatever, as the seasons go on, that more and more people will see themselves in different characters, and will get to explore more relationships and more, and so by the time the show finishes, nearly everyone has seen themselves reflected in the show, and feel seen. So that, and just the joyfulness of it.
Yes, I think whatever you make, the greatest privilege you can have as an artist, if you want to use like a blanket term, is having people feel something. If you can make them laugh, you can make them cry, you can make them relate or go, I remember being in that situation. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, that people have taken that away, and it's made them experience it. That's a really special thing, I think.
And I would finish with, I think that Bridgerton treats its audience with the respect that it deserves as well. They don't treat an audience like, oh, well, they're never going to get that. They're not going to get that Lady Danbury is a black woman. They're just not going to get that. You know what I mean? So they treat them with respect and allow the show to be what it wants to be, and give the people the expensive costumes and the music and the storytelling and the great actors, and have everybody come together, not necessarily at the same time every night, and put on the telly.
I think that it's okay to just love something.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like okay to really just love something, and then not have to do a post-mortem afterwards to figure out why you might not love it. I think it's like totally okay to really fucking flipping I think it's okay to love something, and I think it's okay to understand that anything can be true at any given moment, and absolutism is not going to get us anywhere. And actually, nuance is really beautiful, and I think this show does that better than anything I've seen for a really long time. So like, just put your feet up and really let yourself just enjoy it. It's beautiful.
We couldn't have ended on a more perfect note, to be honest. And
well,
so,
if I didn't swear.
No, but that made it even better. It elevated the experience for all of us. And so I
brought it
thank you
back
all.
down to earth, Claude.
I just want to thank all of you
Brilliant.
for chatting with me today. I mean, it's been such a pleasure. I'm such a fan of all of you guys. You've done such a wonderful job with the show. I'm really excited for season 2, which I sadly didn't get to ask about. And I want to thank everyone else for watching our Hollywood Reporter Presents screening series, and hopefully see you next time, but like in real life.
Yes.
So much.
Yes.
I miss you guys.